Welcome to the Business Spotlight. My name is Jada Walker. I am your host for today's conversation, and my guest today is David T. Stevens. He is the co-founder of Olympian Meeting. Today, we will be talking about his business, journey to business ownership, challenges, best practices, and take a peek at what it's really like to own and operate a business. So, David, welcome to our show, and thank you for being here today. I would love for you to give us a little bit of your background of who you are and tell us a little bit about your business as well.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I've only been at this for officially full time approximately 2.5 years. So I'm still kind of new on the journey. We launched an agency back in 2017, but the timing was really interesting. And my now co-founder essentially took it over in 2017 because she was exiting corporate life and I was getting sucked back into it. And we had a bit of a handoff, and then we had a great working relationship for a couple of years, and then the pandemic happened and that kind of changed. And we're an events agency, so the pandemic had some significant impact on our client base at the time.
Yeah.
And then circle back to a conversation her and I had had about trying to reinvent the way people gathered in the corporate world. We both had just come back from a conference and we were debriefing on how we felt like we needed time off. We felt totally behind physically. We felt terrible, total lack of sleep and everything else. Like you think of the conference hangover, so to speak.
Yeah.
And we thought there has to be a better way. And so actually the pandemic was a bit of a gift in that sense, from a perspective of giving us the time to really think through it. And then the short version of the story is we iterated, we came up with a playbook. I was still a corporate planner when events returned in early 22. We ran the playbook. We saw the KPI impact it had, and within 18 months we launched the agency.
Nice. That's really cool. Especially since you guys are working with the corporate world, it was like you were going back into it, so it's like you kind of saw what was happening at that time, whereas she was leaving. So then you're like, yeah, like let's fix this problem of people getting together, and especially with COVID, it's like you can't really be 6 feet within people. So that's
The pandemic really gave the industry and people the opportunity to reset. And one of the things that I said is everyone's talking about back to normal. And I said, well, let's come back better. Why do we have to go back?
right, right. Let's get better at. First of all, I feel like we're still learning how to communicate with people again because I swear I go out here in Austin. I think you live here in Austin too, right? Or am
Yeah,
I?
I live up in Lago Vista.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I feel like I go out here in Austin. I live in North Austin, but like people still just don't really talk or like it's like they just I don't know. I don't know if they're just being like that's just how they are and they just want to be to themselves. But I'm a very like
No,
outgoing person and I'm like, you guys still don't want to talk. Like I'll say hi to people and it's like they're just like, leave me alone.
these these devices have led to the previous Surgeon General's declaration of a loneliness epidemic.
Mm.
And what's interesting about that is that and our purpose as an agency is when we bring people together, we actually have the opportunity to impact their physical health. Because when people experience loneliness and isolation, it's the equivalent from an all-cause mortality standpoint of 15 cigarettes a day.
Oh wow. What?
It's it's significant. Whereas when we bring people together and people feel like they belong, there's a significant drop in that all-cause mortality. And our job as an agency is to help people create meetings and events and conferences that make people feel like they're a part of something. So I had a woman I spoke to who said, "You think you're doing wellness at events, but what you're really doing is public health."
No, really. And especially this is like I feel like it's the best time because before I feel like people weren't even really worried about their mental health or anything like that for real. But then COVID hit and you had to sit down and like you said, like kind of just sit down and think basically, and sometimes to yourself, depending on if you were actually like living with people or just living by yourself or whatever. And just slow down and actually think about the things that are going on in your own mind. And if you don't have someone to talk to about that, it's kind of like, I don't know, you just feel lonely. Like you said, we were talking about being lonely. So,
Well, in 2020, the Olympics put a very fine point, and one person in particular moved mental health into the mainstream, and that's Simone Biles.
yeah,
When she was in the middle of the Olympics and just stepped away, it changed the, let's call it the acceptance of being willing to talk about mental health, because that's what it all was. It was 100% mental health. She had the physical capabilities, but her head wasn't in it. And so
right.
she stepped away, and that really shifted people's perspective on the way they looked at mental health. And I don't know if she realizes how much of an impact her doing that had on mental health as a whole.
Yeah. And I love Simone just as a person, anyways. I'm like, she is just very likable. So, oh, there's like an ant on my laptop. I'm sorry. I was like, what the heck is that? But yeah, I love like anything about Simone. So I'm glad you brought that up because I haven't even thought about that since I watched the I think it was a documentary that she was in, and she was talking about how she got like the, what is it called? Like the dizziness, but like she basically couldn't hit her
It's
flips.
like the
And
wiggles or something. I can't remember. There's a term.
yeah, I'm like, whatever that term is, I'm like, she had it. And I was like, I didn't know that that could happen to gymnasts or like really anyone. I had no idea. I was like, it's basically like getting a concussion or something. And I guess from my point of view, that's kind of how I compared it whenever she was explaining it. Um, but yeah, I was like, that's wild. But let's set the stage for our viewers and listeners. So generally speaking, what does your ownership structure look like? Because you are a co-founder. So how does that work with your other co-founder?
Yeah, so we split ownership. We're co-founders, so it's 51-49%. And then right now, given where we are in the business, we have a couple part-timers, and then we have a number of contractors and partners we work with. Partnership is a big thing in the meetings, events, and conferences world, because not only does it help you drive pipeline and lead generation and business, the meetings, events, and conferences industry is relationship first. People want to work with the people they know, they like, they trust, et cetera, and that they've worked with in the past. So us being a new agency and myself and her coming from corporate, we, while we know people and they know what we did at other companies, we haven't worked with a lot of people necessarily. So fostering those relationships and partnerships has been a real game changer for us.
I like that. So many business owners that are especially newer to entrepreneurship feel as though they don't have enough time. And of course, I feel like that's just everybody in general now. I feel like I'm a new mom, so like my time, it just goes away. Like my daughter takes my whole day, and then I'll be like, did I even eat today? I have no clue. So, so yeah. But I'm curious, based on your experience with your business and just even being in the corporate world, if I were to give you an extra 10 hours back each week, how would you use those hours? Like, would you use it in the business or personally, or how would you use it?
Well, first of all, congratulations on being a new mom.
Thanks.
And second, I would use that probably for my physical fitness, because I have found firsthand that when I don't make the time to work out or move or take care of myself and my physical being, then I don't perform as well at work.
Yeah.
So while some people think sitting at your laptop for 8 hours a day is the most productive use of time, it actually isn't. And
Not at
if you
all.
step away and take care of yourself, you'll actually be able to get done more in less time.
Yeah, like I've actually been thinking because I've been at my computer a lot and I've actually not even been going to the office. I've kind of been staying at home and doing the podcast. Um, and I've just been like my legs have been aching and I haven't really been working out. So I'm like, I need to get back into that world and get physically active in some type of way because I'm definitely feeling it. Like turning 30, I was like I didn't believe what people said, but now I'm like, I'm a month in, a little over a month in, and I'm like, this is not what I thought it would be. And I was like, I still feel 29 at least. Like, but my
Well,
body's
it
like,
potentially gets worse when you hit 40 and when you hit
yeah,
45.
yeah. I'm like, I need to
But
hurry. I'm
it,
way
it's it's a lot harder to feel worse when you're constantly taking care of yourself.
Yeah. And I have so many friends who work out. I don't know what happened. I just kind of fell off. I was just like, I need to
Well,
rest
you
and
said you are a new mom, so that's one of those things that happens. But I think it's also I don't have children, but I know plenty of people who do who have maintained their fitness, and they say it's a really an opportunity to set an example for the child of the fact that you make the time, you make it a priority, and that caring for yourself is important.
Mhm. And I'm the person I always try to do it when she's napping, but then I'm like, I'm tired. So then I try to take a nap. I'm like, I don't know, my brain needs to get back into focus, basically. I think that's what it is for me. I'm just out of whack. That's what it is. The mom brain definitely kicked in right whenever I gave birth. But that's okay. Everyone goes back to whenever it's the time. So it'll be my time here soon. Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty of the business itself, let's look into your background a bit and what led you here. So, why did you choose to go into business for yourself and also with your co-founder instead of choosing to maybe go into someone else's business and help them grow?
Well, the truth of the matter is what we were trying to accomplish, nobody understood as well as we did. And I was very fortunate that I had worked for an incredible VP of marketing and CMO who taught me a whole bunch of things I didn't realize she was teaching me when I worked for her, and that was how to build a category and how to create a category.
Oh,
And when myself and my business partner looked around the industry, because we had to think about, is anyone talking about this? Is anyone doing this? Does
right,
anybody even have these insights yet? Nobody was talking about wellness in corporate events from a strategic standpoint. Everyone was talking about it from a practitioner standpoint. And if you want someone to do yoga at your event, I can do that. Okay, cool. But nobody was talking about why or how. I'm married to a physician.
oh,
And so there's a deeper through line of understanding that executives don't really care about adding wellness to an event unless there is going to be a return on in the investment, because otherwise it seems like it's a nice to have, not a must have. And it
right,
will be the last thing added and the first thing cut if there's budget cuts. So spending as much time as I had around being an event marketer and understanding that events are usually the biggest line item in the marketing budget, but they are also one of the biggest drivers of movement within the pipeline. That's why so many salespeople like to have dinners and things of that nature, because when you're in person with people, things change. You can build those relationships and move deals along. Even the meetings, like people hated, they're like, I need to go into this client's office and have this meeting. This isn't something I can do over Zoom. Um, the the importance of those are there, but what we wanted to have the conversation around is the fact that if you take care of people, they will actually take more away from that meeting, more away from that event. They, I, I challenged one of my CEOs when we were returning back to an in-person event, and he said, I need 60 minutes. And I said, great. What 40 minutes of that 60 minutes do you not want people to remember? And he said, I'm sorry, what? And I said, do you think people still have a 60-minute attention span? That if you talk at them for 60 minutes, they're going to remember everything?
right. Because it's like a lecture basically, and it's like no one wants to be put back in school.
No. And so we had a great conversation around it. And he said, okay, yeah, then that's a valid point. He said, look, if you really, really, really have 60 minutes of meaningful content and you want to stick, I'm not here to tell you that your brain doesn't have 60 minutes worth of good content. But let's take that content and break it up into three sections so that people can digest it instead of you just overwhelming them with information in one 60-minute monologue. And because these companies are spending, a million, 5 million, 10 million, depending on the size of the group, on producing these events.
Oh, wow.
So if people are leaving and they're so overwhelmed they can't remember anything, they're sleep deprived, so that when they show up in a session, they're not remembering things from the day before and they're too groggy to take in new information the next day, you're really undermining what you're trying to accomplish with that event to begin with.
Right.
So when we looked around the category, it didn't exist. Nobody was talking about wellness as a strategy at corporate meetings and events. They were using it as a activity at meetings and events.
Right.
So we decided to go after it because it just wasn't something that anybody was offering.
I love that. Because it is like it's something very different. I've never heard of it at anything that I've worked at for in a corporate world. So I'm like, that's actually really, really nice that it's like an option. Like I I'm
And if you
like
get into the numbers,
no.
the meetings and events and conferences world is a $2.2 trillion market cap, and the
Mhm.
wellness industry is at a $6.9 trillion market cap. So there's plenty of opportunity there,
Yeah,
but we very boldly and proudly say that we are the world's only wellness first events agency.
I love that. That is so cool. Because like there's questions later where it's like, how do you see yourself with how do you compare to the competition? Now I'm like, there is no competition. You guys are like the only one. That is awesome. And it's cool that you like it's cool to know like you're like talk to someone who's like the first, like I created this first. Like that's just really cool. Like it blows my mind the people that I've talked to on some of these podcasts. Like it's just amazing. So
Thank you.
yeah. So as you look back on your journey, I feel like what we just talked about was kind of a roadblock, but have there been any other memorable roadblocks or hurdles that you were challenged with and you were forced to overcome?
Yeah, I just launching a category, you you don't know what you don't know, right? And what one of the things that we've been, I don't want to say struggling with, but a challenge that we definitely have started to dismantle is I did a number of speaking gigs. We did a white paper when we did that first, when we ran that playbook, and it turned into a bunch of speaking gigs and then the podcast and whatnot. But people would give the sessions great marks, but the phone wasn't ringing.
Mm,
And so I've spoke at, I don't know, I've probably done 50 plus speaking engagements since launching this company. And it was great. And people would fill out fantastic surveys. And I'd talk to the show organizer, and because I'm an analytics person, I want to know these things. And they're like, yeah, you got great marks. Hopefully we can have you back next year. And I'm like, great, this is awesome. And people left saying, I never thought about it this way, blah, blah, blah. But then they'd call somebody else to actually do whatever version of it, of wellness was to them. So I kind of make the joke is I inspired people to call other people to order puppy yoga.
right.
So it was, so one of the things we had to do is we had to start understanding how to meet our prospects, for lack of a better term,
Yeah.
where they were, and create something that was packaged. And if you use SaaS language, the land and expand play, like what can we put in front of them that they can see, understand immediately, and say, I want that. And so that's what we did last year at a large industry conference, and we launched a product called Circadian Cove, which, surprise, surprise, it's the first of its kind. And we partnered with a human performance PhD who, actually, going back to Simone Biles, she trained with Simone at one point. She was a former gymnast, and now she coaches people in the DoD and Olympic athletes and professional athletes and whatnot. And but
So,
we got together to talk about creating a wellness lounge that was built off people's circadian rhythm,
oh,
because traditional wellness lounges are just like some things thrown in a room and people go use them when they feel like it. Okay,
yeah,
that's
right,
better than nothing, right? But
right.
that's a Nokia cell phone.
Oh my God, Nokia.
It makes calls
Yeah,
and you can play Snake on it, but great. We wanted to up level that, so we created this thing called Circadian Cove, where it was an actual lounge that was programmed not just to be in line with people's circadian rhythm throughout the day, because we all know we have highs and lows, and we're better capable of certain tasks at certain times of day.
yeah,
But we also designed it so that it evolved over the course of the conference as well, because day one energy is very different than last day energy.
right,
So we introduced modalities and practices and classes that take place over the course of 2 or 3 days that evolve with the attendee energy or the participant energy, so that we're meeting people where they are.
Mhm.
And to us, that was the smartphone of wellness lounges because it was built with intention, it was programmed with intention, and it showed a level of understanding about participant energy that just hadn't been showcased before.
Awesome. You just keep like saying all these things that I'm like, I've never in my life would have thought of this. Like, and I'm like, I'm glad you are someone who did think of it. It's just so crazy. It's just so cool. Like, I'm like, you're literally blowing my mind. I
Thank
feel
you.
like I say this on all my podcasts, but no, I'm like, you're literally blowing my mind. Like, that is wild.
It's what's wild is when we think about it, none of this is new. None of this is rocket science. I
Right?
spoke at a medical conference and they said, and someone goes, "Yeah, but it is neuroscience." I was like, "Okay, fair. You're right." But we
Like,
know
way to be
these things.
technical.
We know these things about people. And you look at, there was a Global Wellness Institute had a webinar 2 weeks ago, I want to say. It was an astronaut. It was the Wimbledon champion. It was someone from United Airlines, etc. And they were talking about circadian rhythm. We all have it,
Right.
but yet we don't program for it at events in any way. We
Oh,
expect this abstract behavior out of people. And then when somebody comes on after lunch and people are experiencing, the clinical term is postprandial dip, and they're falling asleep because you're just talking at them. And then we wonder, well, why? Why aren't people paying attention? Well, because they're humans and they're not designed to pay attention after lunch. They're designed to do something else. So if you put a team building after lunch instead of
let's
a
say there's
lecture,
that makes so much sense. Because it like whenever you do things, especially if it's like physical, it kind of helps wake you up a little bit. Like, and then you go into doing a little bit more of teaching or whatever it is.
yeah,
But yeah,
you get your second wind, and then that's fine. Go back into sessions, cool. But there's just this, we've always done it that way mindset,
yeah.
and that is, I jokingly say Command C, Command V is a lot easier than Command N.
Wait, what's Command in? What is that one?
New.
Oh, wow. That I should have known that. Wow. I've just never even used that command. I'm like, wow, okay, I'm a little slow. That is so funny. That's cool. That's a
We're
good.
recording at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so it's your
Yeah,
postprandial dip time, so it's fine.
and I'm like, my brain's literally turning into like mush. So we're actually going to talk a little bit about marketing, which is obviously very vital to every business out there. And a lot of times business owners actually kind of struggle with it, which we kind of talked about it a little bit. But I'm actually curious to what successful businesses are doing. So do you know what percentage of your monthly sales is typically invested back into your marketing budget?
I'd say about a third right now, and that's mostly when we talk about marketing, we spend we have our podcast, but our podcast is monetized. So I guess
Okay.
that's not actually spend, that's revenue. The flip side of that is mostly it's travel for speaking gigs and things of that nature, and or exhibiting at various conferences to show off the new offering of Circadian Cove.
But I like how you guys go to these conferences because I just feel like that's something that not a lot of people do, or it's something that's kind of forgotten, especially with my like age group of people. I mean, I don't know, I don't know if you're around my age, but I just feel like the younger kids, it's like they don't really think about conferences, like they don't think of that stuff as in like yeah, like I want to go to that. That I feel. I mean, I don't know. I've talked to a couple of people where they're like, that doesn't sound like something that's fun. Like, why would I want to do that? So, but
It's because they usually aren't.
events, if they have you guys at the event, it probably is fun. So now I'm like, I hope a lot of Gen Z sees this and you guys are like, oh, this actually sounds cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we are thinking about the long-term sustainability of our industry, right? And if we're burning people out, that sustainability is going to go away and people are going to hate going to conferences. And we think conferences should be energizing and not exhausting.
Right, exactly. Or even like that's why people don't want to work nowadays. They just want to be influencers or like TikTokers, whatever it is, or streamers. They're like, that's not it basically is not like making me happy. So why would I continue to go and be unhappy in life? Like makes no sense.
Yeah, well, that's been something that's been happening for a couple decades since reality
Yeah.
TV showed up. I was just watching a thing about America's Next Top Model. I guess it's having
Oh
this
my gosh,
resurgence.
yes. That one,
And
I'm like, whoa.
it was the beginning of reality TV, right? And then that's when everyone was like, oh, I don't have to be smart. I just have to be a jackass on camera and I can make a ton of money.
Right. It's like you either gotta be pretty or, like you said, a jackass, or I guess someone in the background that just makes funny comments, and then yeah, like you kind of make it.
Yeah. So all social media really did was accelerate the opportunity to become a reality TV star.
Right. It's crazy. It's crazy how things have just changed. And like, I was born in 96, so I feel like I've seen like all the changes throughout the last, what, 30 years. It's just wild how things have progressed so fast.
Yeah.
Like, slow down, please. Oh my gosh. So moving from marketing to sales, what does your sales process look like? Like if I were to refer someone over to you, what can they expect to experience as you guide them on the choice to do business with you?
Well, I'm going to talk about this from the perspective of I see this as an opportunity to educate the industry on how to work with an events agency over not just our agency, but these are the things that I'm going to ask the I'm going to kind of walk through the process that someone should experience if they're working with a world-class agency, not just us.
Okay, cool.
The first thing I want to ask usually is why? What's the objective? What's the point? Why are you investing in this event? What's the outcome? What does success look like? Understanding where the goal line is helps inform all the decisions along the way. And the other thing is with corporate events that tends to happen sometimes, and it's why some people stick to corporate and some people enjoy weddings, is event planning can very quickly become emotionally driven when it comes and or driven by ego. And so the difference between an event planner and an event professional is someone who's going to ask the objective and never forget it. What is the outcome? What's the desired success? What are we trying to accomplish? And so then when the executive goes rogue and wants to, I don't know, come in flying from a zip line for his main stage entrance, you can say, okay, how does that support the objective? If you're trying
Right.
to fire up the team and we had a bad year last year, do you think that kind of money to spend on that is going to send the right message to the team to get them to buy in and rally? An
Right.
event
Definitely.
planner is going to say, okay, great. I got it, boss. An event professional is going to ask that question. They're going to push back. So ensuring that the team is aligned on what success looks like. And then it's a matter of exploration on how to get there, what has been done in the past. So understanding where people's expectations are. If you've been going to a Four Seasons for the last 5 years in a row, and then all of a sudden you're at a Fairfield Inn, that's going to be that's going to be a rough adjustment. And it also could undermine the credibility of the event. Like, oh, but at the same time, if you have a sales org that had a really rough year, and the last 5 years before that, you had great years, it also sends a very distinct message, right? Because you're like, hey, remember when we used to go to the Four Seasons? Yeah, well, we all missed our numbers last year, so now we're at a Fairfield. So there's a number of different things, but our concept is we want to understand the big whys, what success looks like, and then how operationally we can get there by leveraging wellness as a strategy. We had one client one time who said, well, we had a rough year. We don't have the time for wellness. We need to be in sessions. And we had to remind them, hey, I hear you. I understand the thought process that this seems like a nice to have, but we'd love to remind you the fact that people can only hold on to so much information. And if you
Right.
keep them up too late, when you sleep is when you convert short-term memory into long-term memory and free up space the next day for short-term memory again. So
Ooh,
by the way you're building this agenda, I understand that the tone may not be as rah-rah as it has before, but you can't afford, especially when you have an off year, to not take care of people
right.
when you need to be doubling down so that your message is sticking, so that people can get a full night's sleep, so that people are eating food that's good for them, so that their blood sugar stays stable, so they can continue to pay attention throughout the day. They need to connect with their peers and understand if there's people in the company that are having success, are we showcasing that and learning from them, or are we just saying, yay, good job, moving on, and let me tell you how to fix what's broken with you. No, we're not connecting people with each other to trust in each other. So our big thing is understand what success looks like and then work through the operations and logistics to get to that success.
I like that. So whenever you guys do bring like certain wellness things into these events, is it like the same different wellness things, or like is it kind of just based on what the company is wanting to bring into like the company to the event? So like, because I know you can probably bring in like some masseuses or like I don't know. I'm like actually let me just let you explain it because I'm like I don't even know what you do. So let me let you explain it.
Yeah, well, wellness means different things to different people.
Yeah.
And what one I kind of use the analogy of one person thinks wellness is like whiskey by the fire. We're in Texas, so that's one kind of wellness. Another person likes to do yoga and meditate, but there's another person that wants to do meditation with their whiskey. So, like trying to tell people what the organizer thinks wellness is one thing, and that usually doesn't go well. That's usually the people we hear from that go, "Well, we tried this before and it didn't work." And I said, "Well, did you ask people what wellness was, or did you tell them what you thought wellness was?" So, a big thing for us is we like to offer a vast amount of options during the registration process
I like
so
that.
that we understand where the participants are,
Mhm.
especially because, I did CrossFit for 6 years
Yeah.
and I don't
I
really
read
do
that
it
you
much.
were like 6 times the fittest man. I said, what?
So, but I don't really do it anymore. So if a group offered CrossFit, maybe I go, maybe I wouldn't go. I
Yeah.
do I do a lot more kind of broken up weightlifting and cardio. So,
Yeah.
but if they offered a run, maybe I'd be more into the run. But you just don't know where people are in their, I'll say it, wellness journey.
Yeah.
So by being proactive and asking your participants what wellness means to them, now that sounds intimidating to people because they're like, oh my God, I can't offer 50 different things. You don't
Right.
have to. You can offer it on registration. It costs you nothing to ask one more question. But if you break those modalities or practices up by level of intensity. So like a sound bath and meditation versus yoga or qigong versus boot camp or CrossFit, right? Those are very different things.
Yeah.
And you start seeing where people are coming in at, you start to understand what level of intensity people are into. The other thing is you might have someone, one of the things that happened with one of our events is there was going to be a large contingency coming from Europe, and they all opted to do the gym on their own time. Like that was the box that they all checked.
Okay.
I want to do just let me do my own thing. We were in Vegas and the gyms don't open until 8 a.m. They're from Europe on the West Coast. We know they're going to be up at 4 a.m.,
Yeah.
right? So we got with the hotel and we got the gym open early.
Oh, that's nice.
And people were thrilled. They didn't change their signage or anything, but
Yeah.
there was an attendant there, and we told all of our people, we said, hey, we know a lot of you want to go to the gym, and we know some of you will be experiencing some jet lag, so you'll probably be up early. So we worked with the hotel. The hotel will be open at 4 a.m. The hotel gym will be open at 4 a.m. They're not promoting it, they're not telling anyone about it,
Right.
but go
But
take
it is
advantage of
open
it.
for you. That's nice. That's so cool. I like whenever like the event place actually is like willing to do that and they're not like, no, you can't do that because
Well, it
then
wasn't free,
oh yeah, yeah, of course, of
but
course.
but it's the event organizer's job to be looking after their participants, right? And that's where all this comes from is it's just like when it comes to food and ensuring that you have something for everyone to eat. If you don't feed people properly and you ignore
They'll be
dietary restrictions and things of that
hungry.
nature, people will leave.
Yeah. Because they'll be like, I'm hungry, like I'm starving, I need to go get some food, like, and this is not, I'm not gonna say it's actually boring, but they're probably like, this is boring, or like it's not as important as whatever I got earlier. So yeah, I'm just gonna head out.
Yeah. You are like, depending on what you're offering, you can be chasing people away from your event. And if you're dropping $1 million on it, that's the last thing you want, let alone then people are filling out expense reports and et cetera, et cetera. So you're just wasting money at that point.
Exactly. I'm like, man, I hope a lot of people listen to this because I feel like you've given a lot of great information and just like you've
I
been
just hope they call me and don't hire someone else for puppy yoga.
right. Right. Call David T. Stevens. So let's now move on. Let's move fast. Wow, I can't speak. Let's fast forward and look at what's to come next. So where do you see the business in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I see us with a team and or some regional offices. One of the things that I'm really excited about is it's an interesting time in our industry because some of the categories we work in, there are some real significant experts. And my goal that would make me so happy is to be able to recruit and hire these world-class level specialists in each of them. There's a woman we know that she has a podcast called Eating at a Meeting, and her whole life
I
is
thought I
about
saw something like that on, I don't know if it was your Indeed or the website. I saw it somewhere that it was talking about it a little bit.
so she is all she focuses on is food and beverage at events.
Oh, cool.
And like, I would love to pay her enough that she was just our go-to food and beverage person so that we have the best in class running food and beverage programs. There's another woman we work with named Anka Trefan, and she is a competitive bodybuilder, but is also an event tech superhero. And we just worked with her on an event and we didn't even think about AV or anything else because she was handling it. But because she understands wellness, she's not just putting on production, she's understanding how the lights and the environment that people are sitting in is actually impacting their mental health. So color therapy and things of that nature are all happening in your general session.
Like,
That's
I've even thought of, I didn't even know that was a thing till you just said that.
Yeah. Well, we all know certain colors evoke certain kinds of emotions, right? So
But yeah.
understanding that and playing with that so that you're taking care of people, whether they realize you're manipulating them or not. Um, but then programming the agenda with our other partner that's the performance PhD that's saying, oh, looking at speakers and saying this speaker should go at this time and this speaker should go at this time because she's watched their presentation skills. She knows the time of day that that person is going to be best. And if you have some giant personality, well, then maybe you do put them in after lunch because he'll actually be able to keep people's attention or she. But so next 3 to 5 years, I see us working with the best in the entire industry as our roster and completely having reformed the way corporate meetings and events take place.
Love that. That would be awesome for everyone, for everybody. Like everybody needs this at this point. So as we wrap up, you've had a very interesting story, but as we wrap up, I have a few rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready?
Yes, I'll keep my answers concise.
Okay. What is the key to success for you?
You can't just win. There's a song that said turning L's into lessons. And I love that line.
I do too. I think it's a Big Sean song, or at least I've heard it in a Big Sean song, but
Or turning L's into learning, something like that. But you get the idea.
yeah. Okay. What is one piece of advice that you have for other business owners?
Keep going. That's like the biggest thing is like the wins are so high, the losses are so low, but if you can modulate and stay in the middle and understand that the lows are they're gonna hurt, but the wins are so good, you just keep going though.
Yeah, I love that one. This is kind of a fun question. So, if you had a little bit of magic dust that you could choose one spot to sprinkle it on your business, where would that be?
Um, Probably scale. Excuse me.
Okay. And then, before we get to the last question of the day, could you please share with our audience how they can follow you, learn more, and contact you?
Yes, I'm all over LinkedIn very prolifically. David T. Stevens. I'm an easy find. And then our podcast is on YouTube called Return on Wellness. It's like return on investment, but wellness instead. Those are the two main places.
I like that. I'm probably gonna go check that out later today, actually. So I'm glad you just said the name of it. Um, so awesome. Well, we are We are, wow, we have come to the final question. My brain is definitely mush now. What is most inspiring to you today?
So our little circadian cove that we did last year is up for an industry-wide award.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
Congratulations.
while that's exciting that we did something, the fact that wellness in our industry has now hit the main stage and is content that one of the other people that we're contending with or that we were nominated along with helps produce the Olympics. So for our wellness activation to be in the same category as that, it is huge.
No,
And
really.
the
Because
fact
I'm
that,
like, doing like the biggest thing in the world, basically. Like, that is wild.
yeah. So to me, it's not just it's not an ego thing. It's a bigger thing that wellness has earned its spot in the overall events space.
Yeah, I love that. That is cool. I'm like, congratulations still. Like, that is wild. Wow. Well, this has been a really great and interesting conversation. I've actually really enjoyed hearing your story. So thank you so much for sharing it, David.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure to share.
Yeah, of course. And also, I encourage all of you who are watching to save and wow, save this show and come back later and watch it again because David really did have some great insights for business. And please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so that you can get notifications every time a new conversation drops, just like this one. Thank you to everyone who joined us today, and a special thank you to you, David, again for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.